My mum came into my room and kissed me and told me that she's left my breakfast on the table.
It was 1970, the Christmas holidays. Junior Wallace had no idea he would never see his mum, Verica Blake, again.
When she left me, my whole world fell apart.
Mrs. Blake had been on her way to the factory where she'd worked for 10 years when she was run over on a pedestrian crossing.
And a nurse came out and said, "We've just lost her." She said she was calling out for Junior. It's just a big emptiness that came over me.
After his mum's death, his stepdad said he couldn't look after him. An only child with no other relatives, the 12-year-old Mr. Wallace spent the rest of his childhood in and out of care.
Surrounded by strangers, people I didn't know. Then I was just shoved from pillar to post, really. I was moved around like a piece of luggage. I ended up in Birmingham.
And yet, despite being in the care of the state, decades later he would have to prove to the state his right to work here.
Couldn't get a job because they asked for a photo ID, driving license, i.e. passport. And that was the problem, really. Because when I went to open up a bank account, I couldn't open up an account either because I didn't have no photo ID.
Do you feel British?
No, I don't feel British, you know. I think England has me down as a reject, really. I'm not belonging.
West Indies do you come from? I'm from Trinidad.
His mother had been part of the Windrush generation, invited here after the war to help rebuild Britain. But after working and settling here, thousands would later be caught up in the government's hostile environment policy, wrongly classified as illegal immigrants. Despite years of ministerial promises to right this wrong, today another report has found a litany of failures. Today's report is the fourth critical report into delays in delivering justice over the Windrush scandal. The Home Affairs Select Committee has found that the scheme, which was meant to compensate victims, has itself added to their trauma and distress. MPs have recommended that responsibility for compensation be taken away from the Home Office and given to an independent organisation, something that campaigners have long argued for. The Home Office's own research has previously identified a lack of trust as a barrier to people applying for compensation.
If you get mugged and robbed of every single thing you have, would you go to that person to fix it? We need to be focusing upon the victims here. People caught up in this scandal, they need to be compensated.
What's it been like having to deal with all this paperwork and all of their requests?
It's just been a nightmare, Darshan, and you know, all these different questions they're asking me, and it's just been very traumatic, really, you know.
Mr. Wallace's initial application for compensation was rejected. He's now trying to appeal. The Home Office told us the scheme has been overhauled to ensure more money is paid more quickly. But the Select Committee found just 5% of victims have had a payout. Mr. Wallace says it's impossible to prove the effect the scandal had on his life. And that sense of not belonging here, how has that affected your mental health?
I suffer with depression, anxiety, you know. It's just, I look at myself and I don't see no future for myself. I've cried in here many a times.
Despite the feelings of helplessness, Mr. Wallace says he'll fight on because his aim has always been to make his mum proud of him. Darshana Soni, Channel 4 News, Birmingham.
Well, Anthony Bryan, a victim of the Windrush scandal, had lived and worked in the UK for 50 years when he was wrongly classified as an illegal immigrant and almost deported. Anthony joins us now from his home in North London. And your story is actually rather well known because it's been dramatised and it won a BAFTA. But you still haven't got compensation.
No, not yet. I'm still waiting.
What impact does that have on your life right now?
Well, it's got a big impact because I don't think you guys have known, but since this one's gone, my son died and my mum died a week after, and through that I was looking at another insurance payment from the government, and I'm getting a runaround because I had to borrow the money to bury my son. I had to borrow the money to bury my mum. I'm off out of the country on the 26th to do just that.
Well, I'm very sorry for those losses. That must be horrific for you.
Thank you.
So
Well,
are
it is
you
at the
able to
moment,
pay for, I mean, you say, I mean, are you able to pay for that?
No, because I borrowed, as I said, I borrowed the money to pay for my son. And I'm also in the process of borrowing the money to pay for my mum's funeral as well. Because I asked the Home Office for the interim payment, and they said I'm not entitled to it. You know, and so it's just a nightmare thing I'm just going through for the last 4 years.
It's no good being a sort of a famous, heroic victim, is it? You need the compensation.
Well, it seems
how do you think it
like
should
I've been
change?
punished.
Punished?
Well, I don't feel the Home Office is supposed to be dealing with it. That's number one, because you can't ask somebody to do, well, they're the ones who create all this, and now we're asking them to fix it. And I think it should be taken out of their hands. Personally, that's my personal beliefs anyway.
I mean, that's one of the suggestions, that it should go to some sort of independent body. Do you think that would create trust?
Most definitely. Well, it would create, for me, I only can speak for myself, it would create more trust for me than the Home Office, because I don't trust the Home Office.
And are you surprised by the way the Home Office has dealt with this, given everything that was said when the scandal came to light again and so many politicians pledged to make this right?
Yeah, I know, and all that was good. When all that was going on and all that was happening, it sounded good and everything, but after, when that's died down, it just went back to the same. We're waiting, we don't know what's going to happen, nobody's telling us nothing. So it didn't change nothing in my eyes anyway. The government just come out and say one thing and then do another thing. It makes no difference what the Home Office say to me. I don't trust them. I don't trust them at all. They don't give me no confidence in what they say.
Anthony Bryan, thank you very much indeed for joining us. And again, I'm sorry for your
Thank you.
recent losses.